The morning she walked into my life, the world felt like it held its breath. The air inside Carter Farm's old administrative office in Bozeman, Montana, tasted like dust and winter wind. I remember the way the door creaked open, sunlight carving a silhouette around a young woman whose shoulders looked as if they carried storms. I had been reviewing ledgers, numbers that bled red into margins like open wounds, when she stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but her gaze did not. She said she came to repay a debt, her father's debt, a debt I had already forgotten, but one life-changing sentence hung in the air like a verdict. She believed I deserved payment for a kindness I barely remembered offering. In that moment, her truth shattered something in me, because I had spent years believing kindness was a cost I could no longer afford. It had been a long time since I trusted anyone, longer still since I believed in second chances. If you're watching this and you believe kindness still matters, that people deserve second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let's keep stories like these alive for hearts that still need them. My name is Marcus Hale, a 43-year-old single man who inherited more responsibility than legacy. Carter Farms wasn't a gold mine. It was a patched-up survival story wearing the skin of a ranch. Livestock dwindled. Crops fought the weather more than the soil. My father built this place with calloused hands and faith thicker than the timber beams holding his barns. He died believing the world would reward compassion. I stayed here year after year trying to prove he wasn't wrong, but loneliness clung like frost. Some nights I wondered if faith was just memory dressed up as hope. The girl in the doorway introduced herself as Samantha Brooks. She looked around 24, with caramel brown hair tied back and hazel eyes that held unbearable guilt. She said her father once worked for my father years ago. She said he borrowed money when their house flooded and never repaid it. She explained that he passed away last summer, burying himself with regret. She believed she owed me everything. Wages her father never earned, interest measured in dignity. She offered to work, to clean, to mend, to exist at the edge of my world as restitution. And before I could even think it through, the words slipped from my mouth. Then would you like to stay? I didn't say it out of pity. I said it because I recognized something in her eyes, something I carried too, a heart scarred but still beating. Samantha became part of the ranch's rhythm. Dawn to dusk, she moved with determination. She fixed fences, though her hands blistered. She fed the horses gently, whispering encouragement as if she understood what broken souls needed to hear. She swept the barn halls until the air smelled like hay and hope. She cooked meals for both of us, nothing fancy, just warmth served on chipped plates. She was quiet at first, so was I. But shared burdens can grow into shared trust. In the evenings I would catch her staring at the horizon where the sun fell behind the mountains. She told me that after her father died, she felt like a ghost in her own life. She bounced between jobs and cheap rooms, never unpacking because she never felt like she deserved roots. She believed repayment might buy her forgiveness. But I learned fast that self-forgiveness is a currency rarely accepted without compassion. There were setbacks. One morning, an old tractor engine died, and so did half my plans for spring planting. Another week, a storm tore through the property, ripping down roofing like paper. I found her that night, soaked to the bone, hammering down tarps with shaking hands. She said, panting and out of breath, that she wouldn't let my father's legacy drown because of her father's choices. Something inside me cracked open. I didn't need repayment. I needed to believe there was still goodness in the world. Slowly, Samantha changed the farm. Not by miracle or money, but by presence. She organized the tool sheds. She bartered baked goods with neighbors to borrow equipment. She learned veterinary basics to help when the local vet couldn't make it in time. The place stopped looking like a monument to failure. It started looking like a heartbeat. And I realized I had spent years preparing the ranch for survival instead of preparing myself to live. But transformation isn't smooth. One afternoon in late autumn, Samantha found a sealed letter in my father's desk. It was dated the year before he died. It was addressed to her father. In it, my father told him he forgave the debt, fully, freely, with blessings. He even wrote that his own survival once depended on strangers who trusted him before he had earned it. Reading it, I felt him sitting beside me again, the way I remembered him, compassion as his compass. Samantha collapsed into a chair, tears hitting the paper like raindrops. She whispered that her father had spent his final years believing he'd failed. The weight of unnecessary guilt pressed down on her like iron chains. I saw her shoulders cave, not from responsibility but from heartbreak. I told her she didn't have to earn her place here anymore, that there was never a debt between us, just a connection neither of us expected. As winter approached, something softened between us. Not romance, not obligation, just two people stitching broken pieces into something whole. She stopped counting hours as payment. I stopped calling her help. We became a team, not perfect, not healed, but honest. By Christmas, the ranch had changed, so had I. Samantha took over bookkeeping, and within weeks she found expenses I missed, outdated equipment leases draining money, opportunities for community grants. For years I believed I was failing my father, but Samantha helped me see I was still building what he started, just not alone anymore. I found myself talking to her like someone who mattered. She laughed more, and one evening, while fixing dinner, she admitted she didn't feel like a ghost anymore. She said roots weren't given, they were grown. If this story has touched your heart so far, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Stories like these might help someone who feels alone right now. Months passed. The snow melted. Spring found us. One April morning, Samantha stood at the doorway where she first arrived. She held her bag. She said she had repaid the debt, even if there never was one. She said she felt she could build a life now, anywhere. She said she had to choose what that life would be. My chest tightened, but I understood. I told her the door would always be open, not as employment, not as restitution, but as home if she ever wanted one. She smiled through tears and stepped forward, not away, but toward me. She didn't stay as someone repaying the past. She stayed as someone choosing the future. Before we finish, I want to ask something special. Comment below. Do you believe that kindness can change the direction of a life? Samantha still lives here today, not because she owes me anything, but because we learned that sometimes the person who arrives to repay a debt is the one who teaches you what real wealth looks like. Not money, not legacy, but connection, courage, and healing. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps stories of hope alive for everyone who needs them.